I am so grateful for our friends at Blue Microphones. Not only have they completely changed what our show sounds like, they've given me headphones so I can monitor things better. This is the mic for millions of creative people, and now I know why. I'm so grateful for them completely changing the quality of our audio. You'll find Blue mics like Yeti and the Mouse, which we're using here, both in pro studios and home studios, literally all over the world. Their popular Yeti caster is a Blue Yeti microphone, plus a boom arm system that's behind many of your favorite podcasts. I run into them all the time, and now I know why. If you've ever thought about creating your own podcast or YouTube channel, Blue can make you sound and look great. Just visit bluemic.com and click Get Started, and you can start telling your story.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
And welcome, everyone. I've got a lot more to say today. We're going to get right into it in a second with my guest, Rob Schneider. Mark Geragos is going to drop in and give us an update on his suit against Governor Newsom in the state of California. But first, I want to say happy birthday to the great First Lady of Love, Susan Pinsky.
Thank you.
I have been struggling to make this a good day for her, and she asked for one thing. She wanted the vaccine for her birthday, which I could not swing, but I made an appointment for myself. And I went to get the vaccine and was rejected, and I am furious about it because I didn't have the right paperwork. And by the way, was thoroughly mistreated, not by at least one person there. It's just people are getting off on being these authoritarian pricks. It's weird. But anyway, so I'm going to be checking my email the entire show because supposedly I'm going to get an email that's going to tell me where I'm going to fall in the queue. I certainly do not want to step out of line.
So
as many of our leaders have done in Washington.
I want to know who told you to show up at 3 o'clock.
They told me to show up at 3 o'clock. I showed up at 2 o'clock because I thought it's not going to be easy. I just know it. It's not going to be easy. And they looked at me like, no, you're not right. You don't belong. So I talked to I went to every staff office in the hospital.
Dr. Drew who?
And by the way, as I made my way through medical staff departments, I'm certain I exposed myself to COVID in the process. So it was a good.
Okay, just get
afternoon.
it and get it over with. God damn it.
Yeah. Well,
give it to me.
That's Susan's.
Kiss me. Kiss me. It's my birthday.
That is Susan's modality, and I suspect it's the same with
I'll
Rob.
kiss your ass. Just get over here.
The great Rob Schneider. Let's bring him in.
Champion.
What's that, buddy?
How are you, champion?
Good to see you, my friend. So are you, like my wife, hoping to get COVID?
I already had it in January. I didn't even know I had it. I didn't know what it was. My doctor said, oh, that's probably what you had 4 months later.
Perfect.
But I remember it was like, that's why I know this thing for sure came from China, because I felt I couldn't breathe. I felt stuffed up. I couldn't taste anything. That's exactly what I feel every time I eat Chinese food. So I'm 100% sure. I'm pretty sure. That's not an expert. I'm not like an epidemiologist, but I eat a lot of Chinese food.
Just a lay opinion. You're just guessing. So President-elect Biden has said the worst is ahead, and I was thinking about that today when he got up and said that. And I thought, I'm not sure that's true. I don't think that's so. What do you think?
I think that as far as like, you never hear Ronald Reagan said, our best times are behind us. Well, let me tell you, that's like about Walter Mondale saying, I promise if elected, I will raise taxes.
Well,
he's not exactly galvanizing the support of the people. But that's the Democratic formula for you, though. The doom and gloom, turn to the government, we'll save you.
Yeah, and you were a time-honored liberal, as was I. And
yes,
how
could you not be? And I'm a classic 1970s San Francisco liberal. Gay rights, of course. The women's rights, reproductive rights, whatever you want. Equal rights. Civil rights, of course.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, and now that makes me an arch conservative. How dare you want to be able to say anything you want? What if you say something that could hurt people? What if what aren't they responsible for how they interpret that? No, we're going to decide what that is. No, it is. We're having a real crunch here, a real it's like a pincher attack on personal liberties and freedoms. Now, hey, listen, I'm all happy for you. If you want to be part of the experimental human trials for this new vaccine, I'm all for it.
I'm in. But I'm so mad I didn't get the vaccine. I knew you would be happy that I didn't get it, but I'm
glad
you
didn't. Get it fast enough.
And
I called
by the way,
I called the hospital ahead to don't give.
You're right, but you're right though. One of my motivations is I do want to push this forward, and if there is something good or bad, I'm happy to be a human subject. You know what I'm saying? So that's fine with me. That's fine.
All right. Well, that's very kind of you.
Yeah.
But,
no. I signed up for the clinical trials. I signed up for everything. I just can't seem to get the damn vaccine. It's weird.
Oh, well, it's interesting because I just remember back in March when we were still talking about this, and when this was happening, and the mighty Jeff Bezos New York Times. I don't even call it the New York Times anymore. It's Jeff Bezos. Is it Washington Post as he owns, or is it
the Post?
Maybe
he owns the Post, but the New York Times is. I love
he
that
owns
paper.
The Post.
Now I'm suing them, and I dropped my subscription. I can't read it anymore.
I know. It's just because they just lie. They lied. They misinterpret. They lied about our conversation, and they just said, like, I willfully went to a restaurant while knowingly it was closed when they could have easily found out that restaurants were still open that day.
Right.
And it's just, they don't care. It just became about an agenda.
Right.
And I really think that, that they hurt themselves. I think the media, once Trump goes away, and he's going to go away for a while, and he's going to start his own, conservative Twitter or whatever he's going to do, all their ratings are going to go down the toilet.
Yeah,
they're just going to go, and they're going to go like, what happened? And I really think and I don't mind. Hey, listen, I'm all for the press. That's one of the things that the fourth estate is the most important thing for freedoms. But they've been so warped and so agenda based, and they never go back and admit when they're wrong, and admit when they make a mistake, and the people that they destroy in the process. That was very sickening.
Right, and so they came after us, and in retrospect, I guess we'd have to listen to what we said back then, but I don't think anything we said turned out to be radical or even wrong, did it?
No, it just basically, this was a respiratory thing that doesn't affect the majority of people. Now it turns out, here we are almost a year later, and if you look at the numbers from the CDC, it's got a 99.8% cure rate. So the people now I would say what we didn't know at that time was that there are people who are affected by it, which is very, very small percentage.
Yes.
And a very, very small percentage of people under 50. It's like 0.00002.
Yeah.
Now, or 0.00006 is for under 50. Under 19 is 0.00002.
Yeah.
So, but if you are affected by it, then there are people that have very complicated problems. You could have long. What we didn't know at the time was the long-term problems.
The long haulers, which we're very
it's like blood clots and also organ things. And hey, and I'm not negating any of that. I'm just saying that, like, what the press, in my opinion, was not just was criminally, criminally neglect, was also to cover what was happening to the economy, what was happening, and also for delayed treatments, and why they wouldn't talk about that. And that was very, to me, unforgivable for the press.
And it's funny, Rob, you're still taking aim at the press, which I get what you're saying, and I remember it, and I was upset the whole time. But I'm left with a deep concern / what's the right emotion? It's sort of resentment, angry feeling towards public health officials because they've botched it completely. They've done the opposite of what their job is. Quarantining sick people, careful public health messaging, finding where the problems are. Like here in Los Angeles, which I know you are no longer a citizen. We'll talk about that in a second. But here in Los Angeles, there are regions that are just getting just terrible outbreaks, and nobody from public health going in there and going, what's going on? And there are regions that are doing really well only in Los Angeles, like African Americans are doing really well in South Central, and we don't know why, because they're not willing to go in there and look at it and maybe reproduce whatever's going on right. It's really sickening to me that they're just sitting in there on high with their ideological sort of goggles on, and they can't adjust direction, they can't think, they can't do their job. It's really bothering me. It's the same thing you're saying about the press, I guess.
Well, it does. Well, exactly, because what the press is just doing is spouting the government. There's no more questioning of government and no more question of government policy. And I think they have to question it. And you have to look at things. And you're right. There's some places that are doing extremely well. And as a matter of fact, I have to thank the press for shoving this down my throat by the New York Times piece. So I say, you know what, I will get involved and I will find out and I will speak and I will be one of the few outspoken people to question what's happening. Like, for instance, Florida. Florida has, I would say, the majority of old people in America. They have half the deaths of New York.
And they're wide open. And they're wide open.
And they're wide open. And California is closed down.
And by the way,
and it's cases of sword.
And I'm staying agnostic on whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing. But how about somebody goes in there and figures out why it's working? Somebody looks at that, a scientist, go in there and find out why it worked. What's going on?
Yes, and I think to completely, if you dare say anything like, hey, you have an immune system, what are ways to boost that immune system? Or what are the people who are not getting this, what are they doing, like you said? And the areas that are doing well, let's find out, let's dig in. Let's talk about this, and let's not go after and attack people who dare question what the government is
I must tell you, as a scientist, you always have to have alternative opinions. That's how science moves forward. I miss all the alternative opinions. That's why I talk to people on this program that have different ideas, just because that's how science moves forward. I want to read something from Sarah Moore. She says, Dr. Birx got to hang with her own family, but we should be ashamed of doing the same thing. Thoughts? Dr. Birx now is on the record, hot off the presses while we were heating up here, Rob. She's going to retire. She's going to retire because of the social media attack has been too much for her. So
a year late, by the way. I think should be done. She should also have to pay some money for that too.
Well, I just would say that congratulations to you and to me. We sort of moved through a similar storm to what she's withstanding. We're still standing. We're still thinking.
Birx.
Yeah,
still thin-skinned, Dr. Birx.
I think we were too hard on her. I understand why, and I was in a sort of a protective mode for her. And now she's a high-quality professional. We're going to lose. Why? Because people are shitheads on social media. It's too much. It's crazy.
It is. But at the same time, you can understand the anger.
I do.
You can understand. You can say like a 15-day lockdown. That's 9 months. And they never said, we're wrong about that 15 days. Just 15 days. There is no plan. It's an evolving plan. And at the end of the day, what it really has to do is we have to admit that there's going to be a certain amount of risk in society. The idea that you're going to just shut it all down for any group of people. Like my mom's 92. She's going to be 92 in February. And she got this too and survived it. So the idea that, she said
I don't want to say only, but 10% die. 90% get through it. 90%.
Yeah.
So
of that age,
pretty good numbers at that age, or it's like 85% or something. It's like that's pretty good numbers.
So we have to look at this and go, okay, well, what are the other effects that are happening, and then who's benefiting from it? Because at a certain point now, when you're bankrupting people, and Congress is still getting at least $100,000 a year, and yet they're giving $600 checks out this week. People have a right to be angry. But I also think people need to call and these politicians who would not make those assessments and would not adjust to what's happening. I think they have to be held accountable, and they will. I mean, I'm saying right now, in the most democratic of states, you're not going to have you have a really good chance of having Gavin Newsom recalled. There's a really good chance. I would say, for California to have somebody recalled, the last time was 2003. I'd say it's about almost 50% chance now, which is really good.
That is not bad. And speaking of chances, you finally, not only did you change your you didn't change your ideas about politics, but you got abandoned by your parties, and you eventually abandoned the very state that was your home for your whole life.
Well, I lived my whole life in California, and I love California. California, I mean, it's the most beautiful. I call it the Siberian gulag by the beach. I love it. But it's just, you have a one-party system, and as much as you don't want to compare it to and say Chinafornia, but China has a one-party system.
Right.
So, and so when you don't have, and God bless the Republicans and the Democrats there, but if you don't have anybody, that's why I think even Joe Biden is hoping that Georgia has those Republicans win the Senate, so he can at least have some buttress against some form of radicalism that could push things too far. At the end of the day, I think you want moderation. And so what you don't have moderation in California. And like, to me, what doesn't make sense is you can limit these people's ability to move around. And yet you have a huge homeless population, and you don't see COVID. You don't see COVID exploding in homeless population. I was in Venice Beach last week, driving out there to get some supplies from Erewhon to drive back to Arizona.
Okay, I see.
All right, and I was like Calcutta. You can't have this. You have to deal with this homeless population. It is unacceptable for that in Los Angeles, and I could see the frustrations of people. I couldn't live there anymore because of that, and also because of my kids not going to school. My kids, they do not get this. They don't spread it. There's been no proof that any child has spread this to a teacher anywhere in the world that I've seen or heard of.
Well, not only that, it's so interesting to me when other countries talk about lockdowns. Everywhere in Europe kept schools open, so they did not include schools. It generally didn't even include restaurants or businesses. It sort of included like after-hours pubs and things, and that's about it.
Well, doesn't it at this point not seem scientific at all, but seem like a religion?
It seems like a religion.
It has an architecture of religious indoctrination to it.
100%. Speaking of religion, let's bring in the great Mark Geragos, who has a religious cross to bear against the state of California. Mark, welcome.
Hi, Mark.
Mark. Oh no.
Hey, hi, Daffy Duck. How are you?
We're getting the strangest distortion on your voice. It's really interesting. I've never heard that before in any stream, but it sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Any throat surgery recently?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Log out and log back in again because that.
All right, Mark, Susan wants you to go away and come back. Try it again.
That is funny.
So how do you find Arizona, Rob? How is life in Arizona? Is it better than California?
It's been good. I like it. I mean, the only problem is both my kids were eaten by scorpions. But other than that, it's been very.
Wow. Tell us more. That's interesting.
No, my wife got bit by a scorpion the first week we were here, and that was not good.
Isn't she from the Great Sonoran Desert of Mexico?
She is. My wife's Mexican, which means the scorpion, we had to take him right to the hospital. we had to get. He would not come back to the house until we had the whole house sprayed for Mexicans.
What is going on with Real Rob? I love that show. What's going on?
God bless you. Well, we're trying to do another one. It's tougher and tougher as time goes on. But I think we're about to start work on something. She's going to do a morning show now, and it looks like I'm heading off to Mexico to do a movie. So.
Wait a minute. Wait. Slow down. She's doing a morning show for Mexico or for out here?
She's going to do it's going to for we can't announce it yet, but it rhymes with Shmoony Vision. But we're doing she's going to do a morning show. We're going to go up against the other ones. So she's going to do it in Spanish, and I'm very happy. Patricia Maya, if you people want to look it up.
She's very talented. Rob met her on a television set. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah, she's lovely. So we're having a good time, and it's good. I mean, I'll tell you, Arizona is really nice, and I really feel like it's the politics. The people want to just they're more libertarian. I mean, I am very liberal of all social. You can't imagine. I'm liberal on all that.
Yeah, I know.
But I really think that I want the government to leave me alone. I get it. I get it. I don't want them taking my taxes.
I'm hearing more and more of that from people. Just like, oh my God, this is. And they seem incompetent, not the government, in terms of the overreach. It all seems completely incompetent. Is Mark there now? Can we get him in? Okay, let's get Mark Geragos in.
Let's hope his voice works this time.
All right, let's see what we got. Mark, you with me?
I'm with you. But
there you go. Yeah. You have no idea what that sounded like before. It really is like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
I was trying to tell you, Alvin and the Chipmunks was a guy by the name of Bagdasarian, an Armenian from Fresno, so it's quite appropriate.
Well, I will remember that reference and continue to think highly of him. So what is the update on your suit towards the governor and the federal government and the state? I don't get all the different layers that are going on.
Okay. I started off as a lawyer, kind of detoured into a restaurateur, and now I've merged the two of them, only because only here in California, it's fascinating. I was listening to you too, the comparisons. People don't realize Los Angeles was a outlier in terms of a shutdown or lockdown. We locked down here in California, unlike the other 50 some odd counties, way before. And now we are the epicenter of the COVID, in not just in California, but in the world.
Right.
And
So, Mark, what you're saying is lockdowns work, right? They work like crazy, right?
If you're the virus, it works great.
Yeah, you're the virus's best friend. And, all you had to do, and what we've done is we filed against the county when the county did their ordinance. Catherine Barger, to her credit, and Janice Hahn, to their credit, tried to ask some questions of the county health officer who, I don't want to say she lied, but she did not tell the truth. Let's just say that. And it was obvious once we filed the lawsuit against them, the judge here in LA County excoriated them. And I told Drew this before, Rob, but he issued a 53-page order. I mean, literally dug into the weeds. And when the doctor who's head of Health and Human Services in California was asked about it, he said, well, yeah, there really isn't any endangered outdoor dining, but basically we wanted to lock down the state.
We just want to control you more.
Yeah. And we're going to lie to you as we do it. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And Sheila Kuehl, who should be tarred and feathered, Sheila Kuehl she lied. I mean, she says there's 6 studies, there's this, there's that, there's nothing.
Nothing.
What they did to show you how little respect they have for your tax money. The county order expired on December 16th, okay? Our judge, the Judge Chalfant, had said, you can't do this again. But their order expired on the 16th. On the 18th, the county didn't use their own lawyers, not their first outside law firm, but hired a second outside law firm to go to the Court of Appeal, to have the Court of Appeal stay an order by the judge that on an order that had already expired. So that's the insanity here. So what we did
it's funny, Mark, it parallels the public health insanity very closely. I must tell you, from a physician looking at their behavior, it's the same kind of insanity. It's like, this is not, just the way that's not proper practice of law. I keep saying, what happened to public health policy? What happened to the practice of medicine? What's going on here?
Judge Chalfant did a really nice job of saying, I'm going to give the county not 1, not 2, 3 chances to give me any data, anything. Just give me a study. Give me an observation.
1.
Yeah, they came up with 1. You know what it is, Drew. They came up with a 27-year-old in Wuhan in March who said he had gotten the virus while he was outdoors. That was it.
Right.
Other than that, there is no study. Now, what's infuriating...
And by the way, that's not a study. That's an anecdotal report. Not a study.
Exactly. And he had to explain to the county, public health is not eliminating all risk. By definition, public health, by statute, it's in the code. It's, this is what the law is. The law says you balance risks. Nobody has balanced the risks. Nobody's done anything.
Correct.
They just want to close down. And what's galling and why we sued the state, we just sued in federal court, because nobody's got the guts. The state court appellate judges, unfortunately, the governor was very diabolical. Newsom was diabolical. He did something that Michigan did not do. Michigan's Supreme Court held that governor's action to be unconstitutional. Here, Newsom delegated part of his emergency powers to the Chief Justice of California. So all of the Court of Appeals justices, in my humble opinion, are poleaxed by that. So we went to federal court, and we pointed out that Hollywood production companies in March were deemed non-essential. Then guess what happened? The lobbyists, they started spending a lot of money. We detailed all of the money they spent on the lobbyists. And lo and behold, the Hollywood production companies became essential. And You're
welcome. You're welcome, Mark.
Are you one of those guys, Rob?
Yeah. And by the way, the best plaintiff you could ever have is ours, the Pineapple Hill woman, who's Angela Barson, because she detailed in a video that went viral, 10 million views, the production company 25 feet away from her outdoor dining. They could do it. That was safe. She couldn't do it. They threatened her with closure, revoking her license, and everything else. At some point, somebody's going to say what Justice Gorsuch said 3 weeks ago in the Roman Diocese case. is going to say the Constitution can take a vacation, but it doesn't take a sabbatical. And by the way, I blame the legislature because Gavin Newsom is a feckless, absolutely clueless kind of a politician. He's Garcetti on steroids. But the legislature has absolutely no business delegating or outsourcing their job to the governor. If you're going to do that, then stop drawing a salary. If you're going to just say that this is going to become, we're not even talking about a one-party state, Drew. What we're talking about is no more separation of powers, no more check on the executive by the judiciary. We've outsourced everything to a dictator who obviously is now quarantining himself because his own policies have failed, just like the mayor is quarantining himself because his policies have failed. And all we've done is doubled and tripled down on stupidity.
And I sent you that article that shows that all the transmission is in the home. So Garcetti now is going to get it in his lockdown. That's where you get it, is when you're locked down with people that bring it home, which it's impossible. By the
way, the study you cited involved, guess how many people, right, Drew? 10 million people.
It was a huge study. It was multiple meta-analyses, and it was showing very clearly that lockdowns don't work. They make things worse. And it's astonishing to me that they can't adjust to currently available wisdom. It's too much. How do you feel have you got any sort of read from the federal judge you're going to be in front of?
No, he was just his honor was just assigned literally within the last couple of hours. We plan on going in shortly, and I'm hopeful. Whether this is going, no matter what happens, the county will spend and the state will spend an inordinate amount of money in order to fight these things because they don't want to admit that they completely bungled this. I mean, this is the version of, Drew, if you're a doctor and you do this, you get sued for malpractice. I do something like it, I get sued for malpractice.
I told you, Mark, the statement that I would absolutely excoriate residents for was, if I asked why you did that, show me the evidence, show me the data, show me the papers, give me your reasoning. If they said, I had to do something, fired, get out of here. Had to do something. That is how you kill people. That is how you kill people.
No, there's no accountability. There's none with these health officials.
I've recommended to all of my clients. I mean, I'm inundated with the restaurant tours. I mean, it's awful. In fact, I was going to tease Corolla. Every time he goes out to dinner, the county comes in and starts hammering that restaurant. They hammered Mastro's today in Malibu, closed them down, revoked permits. Tin Horn Flats, has shown. By the way, that these orders are infirm from the get-go. But what has ended up happening, every doctor who I respect that I've talked to about this, if they're not under the employ of the government, says the same thing. You don't do something just to be doing something.
It's dangerous.
And that's what the public health is doing. They not only are they doing something just to be doing something, they're lying to you. And that's what's infuriating. And then what are they going to do? They bury in this $900 billion deal, 500 million or trillion, whatever the amount, 500 billion, I think, going to foreign countries, and $600 to people here, and the PPP funding for restaurants. We've got 31,000 restaurants in LA County. The rough estimate is that 80% of those, over 20,000 businesses, will not survive this. The other irony, I'm downtown right now. Said Moses, who owns Kohl's, which is the oldest restaurant in LA, said can't do outdoor dining, right, because it's been closed down. Yet right across the street, literally 40 feet away, is a homeless encampment. And the homeless encampment, they drink, they eat, they do their meth right across the street, and they hassle his customers back when he was open, but they're exempt from this order. And you explain to me how that makes any sense.
No, none of it makes sense.
I really do think. Do you think that, Mark, and honestly, if they stop the lockdown tomorrow, they just say enough, everybody accept the risk. If you're not feeling good, stay home. And that, I mean, because I think what blows this thing out, which is what the WHO admitted and then they took back, was this asymptomatic if you're asymptomatic, then you're not contagious. And then wait a minute, you could be. Or like, I think at a certain point, I don't think that has been definitively proved that you are a risk to other people. I think people have to take and just say enough of this. Open up your businesses. I say call your local sheriff's department, get their support so they won't shut you down. Because there are sheriffs, as you know about this, Mark. There are sheriff's departments that are saying we're not going to impose these draconian orders that are ruining businesses and that are causing the suicides to skyrocket, not just in California, but all over this country.
The suicidal ideation around adolescents now is 1 out of 4. This is what they've done to an entire generation.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And by the way, you know, we tried it. We tried this lockdown. It didn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah. It exacerbates the problem. So call an audible. Instead, they're tripling down. Newsom says, well, it's getting worse. Our ICUs are at 0, so now we're going to extend this even longer. So it's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
It is. Well, let me tell you, 3 years ago, Mark, 3 years ago, the ICUs were really crowded too because of the flu season. And there is a limited amount of beds in California, but they weren't being overrun. But it was crowded. But they didn't shut society down for that. They didn't do lockdowns for it. They just said, well, let's make some more ICUs or let's expand it.
They let the medical system do its job, which is expand the beds, line up the staff, do what we're supposed to do. You notice the ships aren't being called in, you know, the Mercy ship and all that, because the hospitals can accommodate this. And Mark, all the data you hear publicly is only about the county hospitals. 4 hospitals, LAUSC, Rancho, Olive View, and what's the 4th? Harbor. That's it. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of private hospitals out there. They're busy, but they're doing their work. They're doing their job.
And truth be told, it's a very busy time of year. This is. And like when those who are saying, like, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it, the flu season is, there's 98% of normal flu is down. Well, that's because everyone's wearing masks. Well, why are COVID rates? That's because the masks don't work, or because so what? I mean, it either works or it doesn't work. And so I think it's like I was saying to Drew. It's some sort of religious indoctrination where people they can't admit they're wrong, and that's it. It's like we got to throw the babies off the cliff to throw
it in the volcano. Throw the babies in the volcano.
Yeah. And if it works, you see it worked. If it doesn't work, we need to throw more babies.
There's no causal relationship to the things that they are doing in terms of helping. In fact, the only cause is that it hinders. Remember, we shut down indoor dining months and months ago, and we're now in the worst situation we've ever been. Yet, I will tell you something. If you go down the street here to the criminal courts building or to Stanley Mosque, which is our civil building, you're going to have thousands of people a day from different households all congregating in elevators and hallways. And by the way, in the worst buildings in terms of ventilation you will ever want to see. And that's going full force at the same time that we're saying, God forbid, don't you go dine outdoors. I mean, it's insanity.
And Mark, you said call an audible. One thing I keep asking of public health is, I keep using the same model. I'm saying, look, in 1900, when typhoid fever broke out on Manhattan Island, they didn't shut down Manhattan Island. They went into the regions where there was typhoid fever and found the source. They found Typhoid Mary, and they pulled her out. Had they not done that, it would have continued no matter what shutdown they had done. Now you have situations where in Los Angeles, the African-American community, do you know, is doing better than anywhere else in the country? There's 9% of the population, 7% of the COVID cases. Why? Why is that happening? Let's reproduce that where it's out of control in the Hispanic community, where they're just getting clobbered, and no one goes in there to try to figure out why.
Well, the thing that's particularly hypocritical also is there's been a wave of people just hammering the White House because of these emails about herd immunity. And at a certain point now, when you take a look at the positivity rate of the testing in LA County, we're the ones here through these idiotic lockdowns who are trying to unintentionally create herd immunity. We have jumped from a positivity rate that was in the low single digits, where now I think I read yesterday we were at 13.8% positivity out of the people that are tested. Insanity.
I know. I really feel like if this nonsense of lockdowns would just stop tomorrow and people get back, you're not going to see a spike. You couldn't, because you're already having. I mean, look at it already. What's happening?
Well, it looks like it's turning down. We'll see. I mean, only the virus knows for sure. But in California, which is the only state that hasn't turned down, right? Everything else is turning down essentially, or plateauing. And we peaked at 53,000 cases. To yesterday, we were down to 37,000 cases. So today will be an important piece of data. Orange County was down. LA County isn't reporting yet that I can find it. So we may be, moving through this thing anyway.
Well, there are people. Everybody said it was because of Thanksgiving and this or that.
No way.
Take a look at what's happened and take a look. If you follow what they keep telling you, you'll see that you're being lied to. That's they count on the fact that people have no memory.
That's exactly right. If you look at the Susan, I won't be good. We did this yesterday. I put up the data for the country on the cases. This outbreak started October 11th. October 11th. And in Thanksgiving, it hit a peak of around 190,000 cases, up from 50,000. So going into Thanksgiving on November 24th, there were 190,000 cases. There was a downturn that they say themselves was due to less testing, less reporting. And then on December 8th, essentially a week later, 10 days later, it plateaus. No, December 3rd, it plateaus at 200,000 cases and stays there, and now is falling off. Now we're at 178,000. Where is this?
They're going to somehow rejigger the numbers and say, oh, this is because of the shutdown. I mean, that's the craziness of
No, they're going to say it's because of Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, they've used that. And then, I mean, it's just the whole thing. There isn't any time you hold them to account, which is what we do when we file these lawsuits. We call them out on it. And then when they're ordered by a judge to produce data or studies or even any kind of a observational tracing, I mean, the judge begged them at a certain point, just give me something. What have you done for the last 10 months to investigate what it is that backs up the orders you're making? They don't have it. They just basically say, what they tell you is, we're the public health officials. Stop questioning us. You can't micromanage us. We're going to do what we do.
Mark, don't you agree that you should tell businesses to open and say, you got to open.
Look,
just tell your businesses to open.
As an officer of the court, I can't advise people to violate the law. But if you don't have an ABC license and hypothetically there's nothing else they can do to you, why people, it's like I used to say, in the criminal justice system, why do people all waive time for their speedy trial when if everybody just announced ready, the system would have to snap out of the stupor that they're in? This is the same thing here. They rely on people complying, even though people intuitively, and by the way, I don't think this is right-wing, left-wing. That's the progressive that you're talking to. I think the outdoor dining stupidity has kind of united people across the board that there is something fundamentally wrong with this open-ended suspension of constitutional rights and destroying people's property.
Excuse me, Mark. I got to run. There's a benefit. I'm going to jump on here for Steve Buscemi and Adam Sandler. Hey, Mark.
What?
All the best. Adam
benefit
Sandler's
for Adam Sandler?
For firemen. We're doing it together.
Oh, cool.
Mark,
okay.
Thank God. I've never needed your services. I'll never need your services. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
All right, Rob.
All
great
the
to
best,
see you, man.
We'll talk soon.
I'll call you soon, okay?
Happy birthday, Susan. We'll talk soon.
Say hi to Adam for me. Thank you. So, bye, buddy. So, Mark, what's the time frame of when we're likely to hear what's going on with your cases?
I'm hopeful within the next week. The Court of Appeal basically put it on ice, and as I said, it's nonsensical because the county order had already expired. So now we've taken aim at the state order, and hopefully within a week we will know something. And you'll be the first to know, Drew.
And as far as you mentioned, the not a political issue of the right or the left, these sorts of things create strange bedfellows, and to see you and Armeet Dhillon fighting side by side is not something I ever expected. I mean, right?
Harmeet and I talk about that all the time. The idea that somehow we have agreed, we've gone so far to the left and so far to the right that she and I have met.
You've come around.
It's a full circle. It's kind of a Hegelian Marxist, I don't know, dialectic.
Right. It's a reverse dialectic, but it gets you to a synthesis nonetheless. Well, listen, thank you for the update and all the work you're doing. I appreciate you. We'll see you very soon. And before you go, let me just say I'm so sorry about your mom. I know.
For those who think that I minimize this, my mom, in all probability, probably died from the COVID, brought into the house, but it's interesting, and I say this to you, Drew, because you've known the family and me since high school. The doctors at the time were talking about kind of easing her out with morphine, and COVID came along and took her out that way. And so, I get it. It reminds me of our friend Adam Carolla, who goes crazy about the CNN reports when they talk about all the people in their 90s who died from COVID. And,
and they love to play chess, and they all these crazy ideas that they're throwing out there.
My mom liked getting gussied up and everything else, but at a certain point, this has been a public health debacle, and I think we're going to look back in the not too long future and say to ourselves, what in the hell happened here?
I agree with you. I fully agree with you. And I hope we took take a very long, hard look at this. And to just finish with what you were saying about your mom, it is important. The one thing for me one of the things that has come out of this that could be good is if people start talking realistically about end of life, and whether they ever want nursing homes, and what people's wishes are if they are lucky enough to live long enough, they get chronic, severe, debilitating illnesses or dementia, because it's coming for all of us.
I'll come back and we'll discuss. I read an article by the Emmanuel brother, who nobody knows. I should say nobody
I saw
knows.
That, the ethicist, so-called. Yeah.
He was an oncologist out of New York who wrote an article about after 75, no heroic efforts for him. And, my father and I used to talk about that before he passed. He passed 4 or 5 years ago. And he used to say, look, if I'm not functioning and I can't drive and I can't go to court and I can't do the things that give me pleasure and make me me, put a pillow over my head. But unfortunately, I wasn't strong enough to do that.
Well, but still, yes, 100%. That's something that we all have to think about and talk about. And I have to tell you, when I was working actively at an ICU, it was considered anathema, cruel, to put an 80-year-old on a ventilator, because the probability of living a year after being on a ventilator at advanced age was next to zero. And if you did happen to live that year, it was a nightmarish year, and thought to be absolutely cruel to do that to people. All of a sudden, it must be the legal system got into it somehow. All of a sudden, we're doing that all the time.
I actually think that if you want, the two grim reapers, as far as I'm concerned, are big banks and big insurance. I think this is an insurance-driven deal. You've got people who are feeding at the trough of the federal government. They know at end of life, that's all paid. That a large portion of that, that, Drew, are people who are on the federal dole, so to speak, of the medicine. With nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is, when they take these heroic efforts that really have nothing to do or no correlation to quality of life, yet you run up these incredible bills that the taxpayers have to pay. There's something that needs to be looked at there, because I think there's something that's driving this that is not a quality of life or a value of life. It's a value of $1.
Well, what is it? $7 for every one spent during the last year of life. For fruitless measures, for things that do not help the person or keep them alive longer. Just
in many cases, I'd love to see a percentage. In many cases, with people who are not even self-aware, meaning that they're, as you've said, it's a dementia, it's an Alzheimer's, or in grips of extreme. And you have to say to yourself at that point, what is really going on here?
Well, and what I'm saying is the individuals need to leave instructions for when they get into those states. We need that for psychiatric management. We don't have that for when people get psychotic, and we don't really encourage people to do that for if they get a severe dementia. And we need to be really clear about that for people.
Without going too far afield, we've got a whole problem with that. That's part of the problem with, as I'm sitting here also in the epicenter of the homeless situation, we have a lot of people who are mentally ill in the throes of a psychosis running around here, but we don't deal with them because we've labeled them as homeless. And somehow we think that we're helping them because we let them have autonomy in these mentally ill
states.
fixations.
And then they die. And so that's a conversation we will have on another day. But I'm going to let you go right now.
Wait. Really quick. I want you to remind everybody who came later. And the heading of our show today on Twitter was Dr. Drew gets a vaccine.
Oh, I got turned away by the hospital because I didn't have the right paperwork. And I'm furious. I'm so angry.
Where's your papers? You got to bring your papers in.
And they treated me like that. Like, where are your papers? And stand over here. It was like people are getting off on this. I felt like telling the guy, do you enjoy talking to people like that?
Maybe it's because
senior staff members have been on your hospital staff for 40 fucking years. It's like,
maybe you did that to them
here?
once.
No, he's too young for that.
They were looking out for. They didn't want to vaccinate you on her birthday.
Oh,
yeah,
God. How many doctors are trying to come in and get the vaccination, though? Because I know they weren't answering the phone all weekend.
I know.
And it was just, I'm glad you didn't drive back from Laguna.
Very soon.
All right, Mark, thanks so much. We will talk to you very soon. Okay, thanks, my friend. I will take a little break here, and I will come back with your phone calls. I'm sorry, those of you who have been sitting on hold. I see you. I'm going to get to as many as I can after this break. Well, I too have struggled with GI issues over the years. I have something called Lynch syndrome, so gut health is extremely important to me. And while gut health awareness has increased, it's led to a wellness trend that's inspired a host of questionable marketing and some false claims. Now, you've seen the word probiotic attached to all kinds of supplements, drinks, even more. They may claim to deliver the healthy microorganisms our gut needs for proper function, but all too often the promises are in fact too good to be true. Thankfully, I became aware of a company called Seed and their flagship product, the Daily Synbiotic. Seed's Daily Synbiotic offers 24 clinically researched strains of microorganisms in a single dose. These strains support gut health and can improve regularity and relieve bloating, sometimes within as little as 24 to 48 hours. To me, what really sets Seed's Daily Synbiotic apart is the delivery system. While some products may offer the right strains, they're fragile, they rarely survive the trip through the gut, doesn't get where it needs to go, but Seed uses a capsule-in-capsule design that helps ensure the probiotic reaches your colon, which is where they often are needed. I've been taking Seed's Daily Synbiotic, and I really encourage you to check out their story and the science behind what they do. To try it for yourself, just go to seed.com/Dr. Drew. Use code Dr. Drew 20 for 15% off your first month of Daily Synbiotic. That is SEED.com/Dr. Drew. Use code Dr. Drew 20. As we're gradually moving back to opening schools and businesses and, of course, our in-person interactions, I want to remind you, this is all time with cold and flu season getting going. Staying hydrated is key to helping your body deal with the added stress and with the upcoming flu season. My regular fans have heard me talk about a product called Hydrolyte for a long time now. It's an amazing rapid rehydration drink. It's a mix that, well, we're obsessed with here. I'm excited to announce they've just released Hydrolyte Plus Immunity, just in time for cold and flu season. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of immune-boosting ingredients. Each single-serve, easy-pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and 300 milligrams of elderberry extract, creates what is hopefully immune-boosting formula that's high in antioxidants and zinc. Combining this with Hydrolyte's 7 key electrolytes, it's a fantastic way to stay proactive and properly hydrated. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy-to-pour powder sticks that rapidly dissolve in water and make a great tasting drink that has 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. It uses all natural flavors, and it is gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and it is vegan. And you can find Hydrolyte Plus by visiting hydrolyte.com/Dr. Drew. Again, that's HYDRALYTE.com/DRDRW. And be sure to use our code Dr. Drew 25 at checkout for a special discount. I'm ready. All right, we're back. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. We are going to get to very quickly here a Leopold update from the great Joe Giannotti from Locals. Joe, what do you got for me?
Hey, I want to give you an update on Leopold.
Go ahead.
The one thing that's getting worse is the inflammation part of the process. Now that he's in day 10, everything else has been staying steady. However, they had to up his oxygen to 4 liters today, and they are moving him into a 24/7 monitoring room at Kaiser. Right.
So I actually spoke to Leopold myself today too. His spirit sounded much better than I expected. He is delighted that you're giving reports, Joe, and endorses you continuing. I reviewed a lot of the inflammatory mediators with him. Maybe I'll bring Yogender into a call, and Yo and I will both go over it. But he's okay. He's okay. Then this 7 to 10 day window is when things can get like this. And I feel well. We'll see. These are hard things to predict, but the doctor is being very attentive. He's got lots of data, and I know you've been going over that with him. He told me that.
I have been, and I think you know what it is. I think just being in a hospital room by yourself, is just so demoralizing and depressing. And and I will say the Locals gang. I mean, he cannot thank that you guys enough by just the cheerleading, the posts, the well wishes are overwhelming, are incredible, and especially you and Susan, just keeping up with him.
Well, we're just part of the team. Has he ever told you about the history of my relationship with him?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, I feel a certain amount of responsibility for him. I don't know. It feels even more than usual. But I'm happy to keep up. It's no problem. It's no problem at all. And we're just part of the team thinking about him. So I actually appreciate you going in there and, being a very, very consistent support for him and bringing the good words of everybody that supports him. So anything else, Joe, going on?
No, that's pretty much it. I just want to tell you I'm just trying to stay as strong as possible, and I'll see everyone tonight on the Locals Zoom chat. And happy birthday, Susan.
Oh, she's saying thank you, but the mic's not on.
Thank you.
There she is.
Love you, Joe.
All right, buddy. Talk soon.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Let's see. We got Jenna. Jenna, what's going on there?
Hey, Dr. Drew.
Hi, Jenna.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. So I've called a couple of times. I live over in Utah, and I know you've talked a couple of times about Utah and why we're doing so good. And just a side note, I think it might be that we're fairly young here in Utah.
I was thinking
a lot
that.
of young families.
Yes, and you're spread out and you're young. I was thinking that. Yeah. And then, but of course, Susan and
I think so.
Susan and I watched Real Housewives of Salt Lake City last night and reconsidered everything we were thinking about Utah.
Oh gosh, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I've watched some of that too, and it's definitely not at all the experience I have of people here, but it is entertaining.
There you go.
So I I wanted to talk to you about. I have a lot of friends who, they're really against masks, and I think just they're so frustrated with COVID and everything. Now they don't, they're frustrated about the vaccine. They don't want the vaccine, which, I can get. And a lot of them are my age. I'm 30. So, I know you said.
So let's be clear. It's reasonable, particularly at this point in time, it's reasonable for them to at least wait, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And I know you said you wouldn't recommend, or you told your kids to wait. And I'm about the same age as your kids. So, I get that. But my thing is, I now have friends who have taken it to the extreme. They're saying they will never vaccinate their children for anything ever again.
Oh boy.
Well, and, so I have family members saying this and friends saying this. And I just, I don't know how to kind of communicate with them. I don't know if you have any
all right. So here's
information I can use to help.
Here's what you got to do. You can use good information to sway their opinion on very narrow topics. Like if you decide, I don't want my nieces not to get their measles vaccine, you can use information because it's all there to help you do it. The problem is it's something called the backfire effect, which is debatable how strong it is and why it works and all, but let's just call it what it is, a backfire. When you convince somebody in a narrow area, they double down everywhere else. And that's kind of what's happening here with these vaccines folks you're talking about. So what I would do is try to engage these people about their worldview. Like, what is it about the information they're getting or their sense of the world? I always imagine I'm fighting with a flat earther. Like, what would you tell somebody who believes the earth is flat?
Right.
Well, how would you wouldn't assail them on data. You just go, what, you know, in my world, I always feel like I use this kind of technique in therapies too. It's like, geez, if the earth were flat, trigonometry wouldn't work and calculus wouldn't work. And I think those things work pretty well for me. And, you know, so what am I supposed to do when all of a sudden, you know, sines and cosines can't possibly be true based on your theory about the earth being flat? So for me, all of science would fall apart. What would happen to you if you let go of the idea that the earth is flat? Something like that. So, something where you're talking to them about their worldview and why they're so distrustful, and you might get somewhere interesting that way. But there's not much else you can do. It's all Dunning-Kruger, my dear.
Yeah, fair.
It's Dunning-Kruger. Dunning-Kruger is alive and well in this country like I've never seen. Rob has a question here. I want to quickly ask about blood types. Rob, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, hey, I'm just curious. A friend told me that there's a correlation between blood type and COVID symptom severity.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah, there was a study probably 4 months ago that isolated 6 genetic regions that were associated with some of these inflammatory reactions. And one of them was related to blood typing, and they looked a little further into that, or these so-called major blood types, and they found that people with type O maybe had a little less complication, and type A had more complication. So I'm not convinced by the type O part because that's such a common blood type, but the fact that type A might have a little tougher time of it, that could be. That could be.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doc.
You bet, Rob. Let's see.
Somebody on remember the nurse that fell down after she got her vaccine, and her first thought was, oh, she hates needles or whatever.
Yes.
So everybody wants you to clarify.
I don't know details about that case. Does somebody have some information they'd like me to know?
She didn't like pain. She faints from pain, somebody said.
Right. I heard all kinds of things. I have no direct knowledge. I don't feel comfortable talking about it because I have no direct line to information on her except the usual stuff. People faint after needles, whether it's a blood draw or a vaccination or whatever. They faint all the time. It happens all the time. You'd be surprised how often it happens. Now, whether she knew she had that reaction or how often she had it, I don't really have the details.
She
I've heard
should
rumors.
have been not filmed.
She should have been lying down for a while afterwards.
Or just laying down when she got the shot, so she wouldn't fall down.
You know, some people have a delayed reaction. You know what I mean? And so
yeah, but then it's the shot. No, it's not the shot.
It's literally the shot, but not the vaccine.
I had people come and say, I want to post this on Locals, but we're not sure you would like it. I said, well, does she hate shots? Is that the problem? And they went, oh, I don't know, maybe. So.
I like the way Kayla puts a little picture of you up there when you're talking.
I know, look
that's
at
good. I like that's nice. Happy birthday. Joe, what's going on there?
That is a very well photoshopped photo, just so you know.
Hey, happy birthday, Susan.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, Drew, I listen to you. Unfortunately, you're not on Every Day with Adam anymore. And I could touch on and ask you questions about a bunch of things. I'm a teacher in an inner city school district in Buffalo, New York.
Wow.
Don't fake me. It's an easy job, man. I'll tell you. But I've had a kid overdose that I coach in football in the suburbs.
Yeah.
And that was probably the hardest thing. I've survived just about everything you guys had just talked about, but I just get confused. My brother was an officer in Oakland, and he retired. He moved to Arizona, and now he's seeing the same things going on in Arizona politically.
So all the Californians are showing up, bringing their ideas with them.
They're yes, they're voting for everything. I was going to retire with my brother. I'm 48 years old, and I just, both my parents are 82, and they live here, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm jumping all around. I apologize because your discussion spurs so many thoughts in my head.
I bet.
And
that's the idea.
You have educated me so much on this, and I really appreciate it.
It is my privilege. I just want to get it. The fact that the fact that you're thinking is what I appreciate. I just want you thinking about all these things. You take the information that we've discussed and make it your own. You decide what to do with all this stuff. That's great news to me.
Right. Well, my master's is in economics and political science, and I'm also, I'm a football coach, and I know you guys. I know you played football and such, but my real question is, I get like the differing reports on, 6 feet or a mask. Like, what is it?
Well,
to me, it doesn't make sense.
If it does, if you think about it this way, we should be doing the things we can do to reduce risk. What I find bizarre is that we become single-minded with the mask and the distancing. I'm going to begin talking. Here, it's right here. There are things you can rinse your mouth out with a betadine solution. I do this twice a day, and this reduces risk.
Right.
You can use xylitol nasal spray. That reduces risk. You can use saline nasal sprays.
Right.
You can do that. I can't even think of all the things. There's all these things you can be doing that can further mitigate risk, and I'm for all of it. I think we should do everything that could possibly work. The zinc, these things may add up. But to only focus on this one thing is, I think, what's getting people kind of upset, because the data is variable on how effective and how much, and how draconian we should be with the recommendation. We should begin using everything at our disposal. We should be using all kinds of things. There's a lot of this one thing this virus has done. Oh, my wand! I use UVC light. I carry it with me wherever I go. This is a UVC light. And yeah, I do. And I use it all the time. And it's changed my behavior. And I wash my mouth off. And I do things because I think, this stuff might work. I'm not totally convinced, nor am I totally convinced that mask or distancing is the answer. But it's stuff that helps. It's helping. And we should be doing everything that helps until I can get that damn vaccine. I'm so angry that I didn't get that vaccine, my friend. I'm so angry.
You guys, I'm so incensed that I'm watching 30-year-olds get the vaccine. And now they're calling me a frontline worker. But I don't need the vaccine. I can wait.
Yes.
My parents can't.
Right.
You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
And they've left out
people in the nursing homes have been pushed back.
Well, the nursing homes are getting
it's
it,
like
but
that whole universal health care thing.
Interesting.
We're going to let the old people just wither away.
Well, it's getting complicated. Thanks, Joe, for the call. I got to try to get through a couple more calls here, but I appreciate all that support. Okay, hold on here.
If I had set up your COVID test, you would have had it.
It's probably true. But believe me, I talked to a lot of people.
You got to run the pit. You got to run it through your people.
Caroline, what's going on there?
Can't be sneaky.
Can I give it?
Hey, Dr. Drew.
Hi, Caroline. Can I turn it over to you, Susan? I happily would.
You should.
Oh, happily. But it's your birthday. I was trying to do this for you.
I know.
I failed.
Well, and then you said you had the appointment on Saturday, and I said, well, why don't you do it? They might run out by Tuesday. So you spent the whole weekend calling. I know you really wanted it, and I was very excited for you. So, but it's okay. You can wait. Whatever, like the rest of us. It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
It's just paperwork. You just didn't fill out the right forms and get
it
to the doctor.
They didn't send me the right forms, and I begged them to send them to me, and they didn't. Anyway.
It's like dealing with a phone bill. It sucks.
Thank you. Exactly. And it shouldn't be like that. Caroline, what do you got?
Hey, happy birthday, Susan.
Thank you.
Dr. Drew, I was wondering, my husband and I had COVID in late September, and so we're at the 3-month mark now, and he has a newborn grandson who was just born this month, And the doctors, told his parents, my stepson and his wife, to not let the baby really around people for the first 2 months.
Okay.
And so,
but
really
that's
my
that's generally good policy, It's not a bad idea
Okay.
generally. They're very delicate in those first couple months. Was it a premature child?
No,
Okay.
no, everything was fine with the birth. So I guess my question really is, we're 3 months out from having COVID. Are we ever really going to be able to test what our immunity is? Or are we just going to kind of have to guess that we're good for 6 months to a year? How does that work?
So I wonder if we could put this study up. Can we put this study up somewhere? It's a study from La Jolla, from the Scripps Institute. The article is entitled First Detailed Analysis
Just
of...
send me the link and I'll post the link.
Okay. First detailed analysis of immune response to SARS-CoV-2 bodes well for COVID-19 vaccine development.
I'll send the link.
What they're looking at is the T-cell response. Now, this is what we're trying to do with Additics, and in the new year, we're going to have these measurements where you can tell if you have cellular and or humoral immunity. So that's coming. Your question was, will we be able to measure it? Yes, this thing called the Additive score. I will email it to you. But this study,
there will be a test for that?
It's a test, yeah. It's a blood test. I just had mine redone, actually. I got my blood done yesterday. I hope I'm sending you the right one. Study suggests COVID survivors can... Anyway, I'm going to send you this one anyway. But this study, which is the one I think I'm sending out, I hope it's the right study, shows that the immunity lasts for a long time, And there's also studies that show continued cellular immunity 16 years later from SARS coronavirus 1. So the expectation is that SARS-2 is going to have a similar kind of spectrum to it. And this study showed very clearly the antibodies go up and they go down. That's always what happens. Then cellular immunity kicks in and sustains. I think you're guaranteed immunity for 6 months. I say to people to say less than 6 months, that's insane to me. I think you're highly likely to have immunity for a year, and you may have it well beyond that. The question will come once we have all these blood tests sort of operating over the course of the next year. Will you need a booster of some type next year? And that question has yet to be answered. But I think you can feel very confident that right now you're in good shape. That's my opinion based on currently available information. Okay?
So I was really interested. Yeah, thank you. So can infants get it? And I heard you say earlier that children can't transmit it. How does
it's not that simple. I mean, they don't have the binding site on their respiratory tract, so it's very unlikely for them to get it. They can get it. They don't typically get sick. They almost never die. And they can transmit it, but the degree and the age and how it's that's still an open question. I will tell you that the United States the European Union has not shut its schools down this entire pandemic, and they have not had transmission. What more do we? Florida open, no transmission. So I don't know what more people need. I guess we need scientific study. I don't know for that. So, all right, Caroline.
Do we know if we know if any infants have gotten it? Or
I feel confident. I don't know of specific cases, but I think to say that some infants have gotten it is a high probability. I'm certain that some must have. But getting it at that age, though, I don't know quite what that means. Maybe they just converted. Maybe I don't know. But I definitely I like the 2 months of restriction. I think infants are, I don't know, they make me nervous.
Yeah.
So, okay, you guys, I got to wrap this up. I got to go do the Fox 11
Oh, my God.
thing.
You know who has the cutest baby, though? Gary Smith. He sent me pictures today for my birthday. And thanks, everybody, for the well wishes on my birthday. I really appreciate it. I always love to be on a show.
Yeah, I need you guys to help me give her a good birthday because I failed.
It's good. My son is making me potato sauerkraut latkes with sour cream and caviar downstairs for this, and I'm going to have a drink.
Okay.
Imagine that. Shocking, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we're going to order food because we don't want to mess. Well, we already messed up but they're cooking for me.
Good.
My kids are all. We have so much food here for the holidays. We're all ready to hunker down and be safe for our Christmas.
All right. Well, good. And tomorrow we have the Christmas sing-along, right?
And I got the senior discount at Bristol Farms today.
Well
so I
done.
bought a bunch of wine.
Well done.
And then tomorrow I pick up the goose. So we'll be busy. But it was a fun day.
Okay, good.
Really fun day.
All right, good. I'm sorry that.
And listen, you're not a failure. This is the system, and you're explaining what poor Leopold's been going through.
I know.
I mean, that guy's been in the hospital for 10 days. I'm more concerned with that than I am, me getting to go out to dinner or have your vaccination. You'll get your vaccination, and in the meantime, you'll just stay safe with the rest of us, and we'll be okay. But you do need the freedom, though. You have to go back to work. I can't.
You can't deal with me. I can't.
I mean, he's going back on Fox 11 tonight, everybody. He'll be in studio with Alex Michelson at 7 p.m. You can go to foxla.com/live and see a little more Dr. Drew chatting it up with his buddy Alex.
And we're going to try to get maybe if there's time, give him his gift tonight.
And tomorrow we're going to have a little Zoom party. If anybody likes to sing, join the members on Locals, drdrew.locals.com, and you can be on the Zoom meeting and sing with two Jews at Christmas with Josh Flagg and also Sarah Colomb.
Oh, Sarah's in on this too?
She's going to come on. She doesn't sing. She said she'd just be an observer.
Oh my gosh.
Make fun of you.
Oh my gosh. Well,
yeah.
This is gonna be
and I think I might call Chris Fangioli too, but Heather McDonald can't make it. But we were going to do this Christmas thing at his house, but unfortunately we were invited to dinner for Christmas somewhere, and we all got COVID tests and they were negative. So we have to stay home and just, chill out.
Right.
Everybody was negative, just even the housekeeper. So we're good. I'm bringing her with. But we're going to celebrate with the Geragoses and have a nice dinner. And we're all getting rapid tested at the door. Anybody who has it needs to go home.
Susan, I really have to go. And
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Happy birthday. We'll see you tomorrow for the sing-along.
Not all about me.
What time is the sing-along?
Sing-along is at 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Great.
And I think because you said you had to go, somebody tested positive over at your mom's house, so they had to move some schedules around. But
yes,
is that still working for you?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be the Two Bears guest in the morning, and then I'm gonna do my shows in the afternoon.
And then you're gonna warm up your Ave Maria for everyone.
Oh boy.
So
okay,
make sure you practice on the way Fox tonight. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Please.
It's your birthday. I'll do whatever you ask me.
It's all I want.
Okay. Done. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow at noon.